The sun was hot over the junkyard. Danny Carter wiped sweat from his face and looked at the broken engine in front of him. He had been working on it all morning. The engine came from a ship that belonged to a trader from another planet. The trader needed it fixed fast, and Danny was the only mechanic on New Dakota who could do the job. New Dakota was not a nice place. It sat at the edge of space where few people wanted to live. The buildings were old and worn. Most people who came here were running from something or looking for a fresh start. Danny had come here 5 years ago with nothing but his tools and his skill. Now he owned the biggest repair shop in the settlement. He was good at fixing things, really good. While other mechanics learned to fix one type of ship or one type of engine, Danny learned everything. He studied alien technology from dozens of different planets. He could fix a human ship in the morning and a cracks in transport in the afternoon. People said he had a gift for understanding how machines worked. The alarm on his computer made a loud beeping sound. Danny looked at the screen and saw a distress signal. Someone was in trouble about 10 miles away in the desert. He grabbed his tools and his water bottle and climbed into his old truck. The truck was falling apart, but Danny kept it running through hard work and spare parts. He drove into the empty desert. The red sand stretched in every direction. There were no trees, no water, nothing but rocks and heat. After 20 minutes, he saw something big lying on the ground ahead. As he got closer, his eyes went wide with shock. It was a dragon. A real dragon from space. Danny had heard stories about the Draconis. Everyone had. They were ancient creatures who lived among the stars. They were bigger than houses, with scales that shone like jewels and wings that could carry them through space itself. But nobody ever saw them. They stayed away from other species. They kept to themselves in the far reaches of the galaxy. This dragon was dying. Danny could see it in the way she breathed, slow and painful. Her scales were dark purple and blue, beautiful even now. Her 4 wings were torn and bloody. Along her back were metal implants that let her survive in space. Those implants were broken. Sparks jumped from the connections where metal met flesh. Danny stopped his truck and got out slowly. He kept his hands where the dragon could see them. He did not want to scare her. The dragon opened one golden eye and looked at him. Then a voice spoke inside his head. It was weak and tired, human. My body is failing. I will die here in this empty place. Danny walked closer and looked at the broken implants. He had never seen technology like this before. It was far more advanced than anything humans had made. But as he studied it, he started to see patterns. The way the power moved through the circuits. The way the biological parts connected to the mechanical parts. It was different from what he knew, but not completely alien. The basic ideas were the same. Maybe I can help, Danny said. Let me try. The dragon watched him with that one golden eye. She said nothing, but Danny felt her surprise through their mental connection. He got his tools from the truck and went to work. He started with the power system. The main circuits had burned out, probably from flying too long without rest. He bypassed the damaged parts using wire from his truck. Then he moved to the biological connections. These were harder. The dragon's body was trying to reject the implants because they were not working right. Danny had to be very careful. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky. Danny's hands hurt and his back ached from bending over, but he did not stop. The dragon told him her name was Ethera. She had been exploring distant stars when her system started to fail. She tried to make it home but could not. New Dakota was the closest planet where she could land. Why did you not call for help from your own people? Danny asked as he worked. Pride, Ethera answered. I am old and I am proud. I did not want to admit that I needed help. By the time I realized how bad it was, I was too far away. The sun was setting when Danny made the last connection. Power flowed through the repaired circuits. The implants hummed to life. Ethera's breathing became stronger and steadier. The sparks stopped. The systems were working again. Danny sat back on the ground, tired beyond words. His hands were covered in grease and blood from small cuts. But he felt good. He had done it. He had saved a life. You saved my life, human. The Draconis do not forget such things. This is a debt I will repay. Danny shook his head. There is no debt. I fix things. That is what I do. You needed help, so I helped. Ethera made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are strange for a human. Most beings would ask for payment. Most would want something in return. I just want to go home and sleep, Danny said honestly. The dragon was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke again. I will stay here for a few days while my body heals. I would like to talk with you again, Danny Carter. You have given me a gift I did not expect to receive. The least I can do is offer my company. Danny came back the next day and the day after that. Each time he checked Ethera's systems and made small adjustments. They talked while he worked. Ethera told him about the universe beyond what humans had explored. She told him about stars that had died before Earth was born. She told him about civilizations that built wonders and then vanished into history. Danny told her about his life, about growing up on Earth and learning to fix machines from his father, about coming to the frontier to escape a crowded world, about building his junkyard from nothing and making a place for himself. On the fourth day, Ethera was ready to leave. Her systems were working perfectly. Her wounds had healed. She stood up to her full height, and Danny realized just how big she really was. She could have crushed him without effort, yet she was gentle and careful around him. Thank you, Danny Carter. I will not forget what you have done. If you ever need help, call for me. The Draconis have long memories, and we always pay our debts. Then she spread her wings. They caught the wind, and she jumped into the sky. Higher and higher she flew until she was just a dot against the blue. Then there was a flash of light, and she was gone, traveling faster than anything Danny had ever seen. Danny drove back to his junkyard. He went back to fixing ships and selling parts. Life continued the way it always had. The other people in the settlement asked him about the dragon, but he did not say much. It felt private somehow, like something special that did not need to be shared. He thought that was the end of it. He thought he would never see Ethera again. He was wrong. That meeting in the desert was not an ending. It was a beginning. It was the start of something that would change his life and eventually change the entire galaxy. But Danny did not know that yet. For now, he was just a mechanic who had fixed a broken dragon and asked for nothing in return. For now, that was enough. 6 months went by. Danny almost forgot about the dragon. Life on New Dakota was hard and busy. Every day brought new problems to solve and new machines to fix. The settlement was small and everyone knew everyone else. It was a quiet life, and Danny liked it that way. Then the Vax came. The Vax were insect-like aliens who ran mining companies. They were not nice. They found valuable minerals under the desert near the settlement, and they wanted to dig them up. The problem was that people lived there. The Vax did not care about that. First, they tried to buy the land. They offered money to everyone in the settlement. When people said no, the Vax got angry. They said the people of New Dakota were being difficult. They said it would be better if everyone just left. Then bad things started happening. The water recycler broke down and nobody could figure out why. A supply ship that was supposed to arrive never came. 2 farmers got hurt when their equipment stopped working at a bad time. Everyone knew the Vax were behind it, but they could not prove anything. Danny was in his workshop trying to fix the water recycler when 3 Vax soldiers walked in. They were big with hard shells and multiple arms. Their leader, a Vax with scars on his face, looked around the junkyard with cold eyes. "You are the mechanic everyone talks about," the Vax said. His voice was harsh and clicking. "You should use that brain of yours and convince these stupid humans to leave. This place belongs to us now." Danny put down his tools and stood up. "This is our home. We are not leaving." The Vax leader stepped forward and shoved Danny hard. Danny fell back against his workbench, pain shooting through his ribs. "You will leave," the Vax said, "or things will get much worse." They left after that. Danny sat on the floor of his workshop, holding his side and trying to breathe. He was angry and scared. The Vax were powerful. They had weapons and ships. What could a bunch of farmers and mechanics do against them? That night, Danny could not sleep. He lay in bed thinking about what would happen. Would they have to leave? Would the Vax hurt more people? He felt helpless. The next morning, the sky went dark. Danny ran outside and looked up. Something huge was blocking the sun. His heart jumped when he recognized the shape. Ethera was descending from the sky, her massive wings spread wide. But she was not alone. 5 more dragons came with her. Their scales shone in colors Danny had never seen. Red like fire, silver like starlight, green like deep ocean water. The dragons landed around the settlement. They were so big that the ground shook. The Vax ships tried to take off, but the dragons surrounded them. Nobody could leave. Nobody could run. Then Ethera's voice filled everyone's mind. It was not just Danny who heard her this time. Every person and every Vax in the settlement heard her words. "You threaten those who are under my protection. This is very foolish. Leave this place now and never return. If you come back, we will not be so kind. The Vax did not argue. They did not fight. They got in their ships and left as fast as they could. Within an hour, they were gone. The other dragons watched them go, then they too left, flying up into the sky until they disappeared. Only Ethera stayed. She landed near Danny's junkyard and folded her wings. Danny walked out to meet her. His ribs still hurt from where the Vax had shoved him. That was quite an entrance, Danny said. I told you the Draconists do not forget, Ethera said in his mind. When I heard that someone was threatening you and your people, I came immediately. I brought others so they could see the human who saved my life. Now they understand. Now they will help protect this place too. Danny leaned against the wall of his workshop. I did not ask for this. I just fixed your systems. You do not owe me anything. That is exactly why I owe you, Ethera said. You helped me because I needed help. You wanted nothing for yourself. That is rare in this galaxy. Most beings only help when they can gain something. You are different. She shifted her position, getting comfortable on the dusty ground. Your settlement is under the protection of the Draconists now. Anyone who threatens you will answer to us. You are safe. Word spread fast. By the end of the day, everyone on New Dakota knew what had happened. The dragons had come to protect them. Danny became famous overnight. People looked at him differently now. Some with respect, some with fear. Some were jealous that a dragon had chosen to protect him. Danny did not like the attention. He just wanted to work in his junkyard and be left alone. But things had changed. People came from other settlements to see him. Traders wanted to do business with the settlement under dragon protection. The quiet little town was growing. Ethera started visiting regularly. She would come every few weeks and they would talk. Sometimes she brought Danny puzzles to solve. Strange pieces of alien technology that she wanted him to figure out. Sometimes she just came to rest and enjoy the quiet of the desert. During one visit, Danny asked her something he had been wondering about. Why do the Draconists stay away from other species? Why do you hide? Ethera was quiet for a long time. Then she answered, We are old, Danny. So old that we remember when your species was still living in caves. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. We have seen species destroy themselves with war and greed. After a while, we grew tired. We decided it was better to watch from a distance than to get involved. But you got involved with me, Danny said. Yes, Ethera said. You reminded me that not all beings are driven by greed. Some still have kindness. Some still help without asking for reward. You made me think that perhaps we have been hiding for too long. More dragons started coming to New Dakota. Not many, but enough that people got used to seeing them in the sky. They were curious about humans, about this species that one of their own had befriended. Some of the younger dragons were especially interested. They asked Danny questions about human technology and human culture. The settlement changed. With dragon protection, more people moved there. Families came looking for a safe place to live. Businesses opened. The small group of buildings became a real town with streets and schools and shops. Danny's junkyard expanded too. He hired helpers and taught them how to fix things the way he did. But not everyone was happy about the changes. Some people thought Danny had too much power now. They said he was using the dragons to control everyone. They whispered behind his back that he thought he was better than them. Danny tried to ignore the whispers. He kept working. He kept fixing things. He kept being himself. But it hurt sometimes knowing that people he had lived beside for years now saw him as something different. One evening, he was sitting outside his workshop watching the sunset when Ethera landed beside him. You are sad, she said. Just thinking, Danny said, about how things have changed. Sometimes I miss the way it was before. Nothing stays the same forever, Ethera said gently. Change is hard, but it is also necessary. Your settlement is safer now. More people have homes. Children are being born here who will grow up in peace. These are good changes, I know, Danny said. I just wish people did not look at me differently now. They see you as special because you are my friend. But you have not changed, Danny. You are still the same person who fixed a dying dragon and asked for nothing. Remember that. Danny smiled a little. Thanks, Ethera. News about New Dakota and its dragon protectors spread throughout the frontier. Other settlements asked if the Draconies would protect them too. Pirates and raiders avoided the whole sector, afraid of running into dragons. The area became known as one of the safest places on the frontier. And in the wider galaxy, people started talking about the human mechanic who had befriended the Draconies. Most thought it was just a story, a tall tale from the frontier, but some believed it. and some started to wonder what else this mechanic might be capable of. Danny did not know it yet, but his quiet life was about to end. The galaxy was about to need him in ways he could never have imagined. 3 years passed since Danny first met Ethera. His life had changed in many ways. The junkyard was bigger now. He had 5 people working for him. The settlement had grown into a small city with thousands of people. Ships came from all over to have Danny or his students work on them. His reputation had spread beyond the frontier. But Danny was still just a mechanic. He still got his hands dirty every day. He still loved the challenge of fixing broken things. Fame and respect did not change who he was inside. Then the war reached the frontier. The Krell were raiders from beyond the edge of known space. For years they had been a small problem, attacking weak colonies and stealing supplies. But something changed. They united under one leader and built a real army. Now they were pushing into settled space, destroying everything in their path. The Commonwealth military sent a fleet to stop them. The battle happened 3 star systems away from New Dakota. It was supposed to be an easy victory. The Commonwealth had better ships and better weapons. But the Krell had a surprise. They used some kind of new weapon that sent out a huge pulse of electromagnetic energy. It did not destroy the ships, but it fried all their electronics. Suddenly, dozens of Commonwealth ships were floating dead in space. No power, no engines, no life support except for emergency batteries that would only last a few days. 4,000. People were going to die slowly in the dark and cold of space. The fleet commander, Admiral Catherine Hughes, sent out a call for help. They needed engineers immediately. The ships could not make it to a repair station. They would run out of air long before that. Someone had to come to them and fix the ships where they were. Danny heard the message in his workshop. He read the damage reports and felt sick. This was bad. The Krell weapon had created problems throughout the entire ship systems. Everything was connected wrong now. Fixing one ship would be hard. Fixing dozens was almost impossible. He tried to go back to work, but he could not focus. He kept thinking about those 4,000 people. They were soldiers, yes, but they were also human beings. They had families. They had lives. And they were going to die unless someone helped them. That evening, Ethera landed in the junkyard. Danny knew she would come. Somehow she always knew when he needed to talk. "You heard about the fleet," she said. "Yeah," Danny said. He was packing tools into boxes, even though he had not decided to go yet. His hands just needed something to do. "You want to help them?" "I cannot fix an entire fleet, Ethera. I am one person. Even with my team, it would take too long. You fixed me when everyone said it was impossible. You will find a way to fix them too." She lowered her huge head and looked directly into his eyes. "I have arranged a fast ship. It can get you there in 6 hours, and you will not be alone. I will come with you." Danny stopped packing and looked at her. "Why do you believe in me so much?" "Because I have seen what you can do. Because you see solutions where others see only problems. Because you care about helping, not about being praised. Now stop asking questions and finish packing. We leave in an hour." The trip to the damaged fleet felt too short. Danny spent the time studying everything he could about Commonwealth ships. He looked at the damage reports over and over, trying to find patterns. By the time they arrived, he had the beginning of a plan. Admiral Hughes met him on the command ship. She was a tall woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She looked at Danny and then at Ethera and shook her head. "You are the famous mechanic," she said. "I was expecting a team of engineers. Instead, I get one man and a dragon." "With respect, Admiral," Danny said, "you do not have time for a team of engineers. Show me the worst damaged ship. I need to see exactly what we are dealing with." What followed was 3 days of work that Danny would barely remember later. He moved from ship to ship with Ethera carrying him through space. He barely slept. He barely ate. He just worked. The Krell weapon had scrambled the ship systems in ways that should not have been possible. Power was trying to flow through communication lines. Life support was connected to weapon systems. Navigation was tied into food storage. It was chaos. But Danny saw the patterns. He understood how everything was supposed to connect. More importantly, he saw how to make temporary connections that would work even if they were not perfect. He showed the fleet engineers tricks they had never learned in school, ways to bypass damaged systems, ways to reroute power through circuits that were never designed for it. On each ship, he worked with the engineering crew. He did not just fix things himself. He taught them how to do it. He explained his thinking so they could apply the same ideas to other problems. Soon, the crews were fixing systems on their own while Danny moved to the next ship. Ethera helped coordinate everything. She used her mental abilities to connect Danny with all the ships at once. He could give instructions to multiple crews without having to visit each ship. It was exhausting, but it worked. Slowly, the ships came back to life. First one, then another, then 5 at once. Power returned. Life support stabilized. Engines could run again. The fleet was not ready for battle, but it was no longer dying. On the morning of the 4th day, the last ship powered up. The fleet could move under its own power now. They could get back to a proper repair station where the permanent fixes could be made. Everyone was going to live. Danny was in the engine room of a cruiser when it was finally done. He sat down on the floor, too tired to stand anymore. One of the ship's engineers brought him water and food. He drank and ate without really tasting anything. Admiral Hughes found him there an hour later. She sat down next to him on the floor, which was unusual for an admiral. "You saved 4,000 lives, Carter. You did something my best engineers said was impossible. How did you know how to do all that?" Danny shrugged. "I fix things. That is what I do. Your ships needed fixing, so I fixed them." The admiral shook her head. "It is more than that. You see connections that others miss. You understand technology in ways that should not be possible for someone who learned in a junkyard." "Maybe that is exactly why I can do it," Danny said. "I learned by doing, not by reading books. I learned to look at what is really there, not what the manuals say should be there." Admiral Hughes stood up and offered him her hand. "Whatever the reason, you have my thanks, and the thanks of everyone in this fleet. If you ever need anything from the Commonwealth military, you just ask." Danny took her hand and let her help him up. "I just want to go home and sleep for a week." The admiral smiled. "That can be arranged." News of what Danny had done spread fast. The military did not try to keep it secret. They were proud that one man had saved their fleet. News services picked up the story. Analysis showed that Danny had solved problems in 3 days that would have taken teams of engineers weeks or months. Job offers came flooding in. Corporations wanted to hire him. Military contractors wanted him to design new ships. Universities wanted him to teach. Everyone wanted a piece of the mechanic who could do the impossible. Danny turned them all down. He went back to New Dakota and his junkyard. He went back to fixing broken ships and teaching his students. He went back to being himself. But the galaxy was watching now. The galaxy was starting to understand that this human was special. And soon, the galaxy would need him again. The story of how Danny saved the fleet made him famous across the galaxy. People talked about the mechanic who could fix anything. Scientists studied his methods. Engineers tried to copy his techniques. His name became known in every settled system. Danny hated it. He did not want to be famous. He just wanted to work in his junkyard. But the galaxy would not leave him alone. Every day brought new requests for help, new job offers, new people wanting to meet him. He turned down everything and tried to live a normal life. Then the Council of Worlds sent an official invitation. They needed his help with a problem that threatened the entire galaxy. The Nexus Gates were ancient structures that allowed instant travel between distant parts of space. Nobody knew who built them. They were older than any current civilization. They just existed and everyone used them. Trade, travel, communication, everything depended on the gates. Now the gates were failing. It started slowly. Gates would shut down for a few minutes, then restart. Then they would be offline for hours, then days. Engineers from every species tried to fix them, but nobody could figure out what was wrong. The technology was too advanced, too old, too strange. If the gates stopped working completely, the galaxy would fall apart. Colonies would be cut off from supplies. Trade would collapse. Wars would start over resources. Billions would die. The council had been meeting for 6 months trying to find a solution. They had tried everything. Nothing worked. Then someone mentioned the human mechanic, the one who fixed impossible things. the one who saved a dying dragon and a crippled fleet. Danny read the invitation 3 times. They wanted him to come to the council chambers and examine the gates. They wanted him to solve a problem that the best minds in the galaxy could not figure out. He felt sick with fear. This was too big. This was beyond him. He was just a mechanic from New Dakota. What could he do that all those experts could not? Ethera found him sitting outside his workshop that night staring at the stars. "You are afraid," she said. "Of course I am afraid. They want me to fix the Nexus gates. Do you understand how crazy that is? I have never even seen one up close. You had never seen a Draconis up close when you fixed me. You had never worked on military ships when you saved the fleet. Yet you succeeded both times. This is different," Danny said. "The gates are ancient. The technology is beyond anything we understand." Ethera settled beside him, her scales catching the starlight. "Listen to me, Danny. You do not need to understand everything about the gates. You just need to look at them with fresh eyes. All those experts have studied the gates for months. They know too much. They see what they expect to see. You will see what is actually there. What if I fail? What if I cannot help? Then you fail. But at least you tried. That is all anyone can ask. But I do not think you will fail, Danny. I have seen you work. I believe in you." The council chambers were huge and frightening. Representatives from hundreds of different species filled the seats. Some looked human. Some looked like insects or plants or things Danny had no words for. All of them were watching him. Danny stood in the center of the chamber wearing his cleanest work clothes. He tried not to think about the billions of people watching this on screens across the galaxy. The council speaker was a being made of living crystal that spoke through patterns of light. "Human Carter," it said through a translator, "you have been called here because you have shown unusual abilities. The Nexus gates are failing and we do not know why. Will you help us?" "I will try," Danny said. His voice sounded small in the huge chamber. "But I need to see a gate. I need to examine it myself. I cannot work from reports and data." There was noise and discussion among the council members. The gates were protected. Access was strictly limited. Letting a human mechanic, even a famous one, work on them directly was unusual. But they were desperate. Finally, they agreed. They took Danny to the nearest gate. It was so big that it had its own gravity. Ships could fly through the center and come out light years away on the other side. Danny felt tiny standing next to it. The head engineer, a 6-limbed alien named Kelvor, showed him around. This was Kelvor's life work. He had studied the gates for 30 years. He knew everything about them that anyone knew. Danny spent 2 days just walking around the gate. He touched surfaces. He listened to the hum of power flowing through it. He watched how different parts moved and connected. He did not take notes. He did not use instruments. He just looked and felt and thought. Kelvor got more and more frustrated. This human was not following any proper procedure. He was not running tests. He was not collecting data. He was just wandering around like a tourist. On the 3rd day, Danny called everyone together. He stood in front of the gate with a group of angry, skeptical engineers. "The gates are not failing," he said. "They are growing." "That is impossible," Kelvor said. "Gates are machines. Machines do not grow." "These are not just machines," Danny said patiently. "Look at the power distribution network. See how it branches and connects? That is not a design pattern. That is a growth pattern. The gates are alive, or at least partly alive. They were built to adapt and change as they were used." He showed them what he had seen. The gates had systems that looked biological mixed with the mechanical parts. They were designed to evolve slowly over time, but the species that built them had included safety limits. Those limits were being triggered now because the gates were changing faster than expected. "The gates are trying to handle more traffic than they were originally built for," Danny explained. "They are adapting, growing new pathways to manage the load. But the safety systems think this growth is damage, so they shut things down. We are not fighting a malfunction. We are fighting the gate's own protection systems." The engineers looked at each other. Could this human be right? They had been treating the gates as pure technology. They never considered that there might be biological components. "What do we do?" someone asked. "We help them grow properly," Danny said. "We disable the safety limits and guide the evolution instead of fighting it. We work with the gates, not against them." The council was doubtful. This theory went against everything they thought they knew. But they had no other options. They authorized Danny to try. It took 3 months of careful work. Danny learned to communicate with the gate in its own language. It was not like talking to a person. It was more like talking to a very old, very slow plant. The gate understood basic concepts. It wanted to help. It just needed someone to show it how to grow in the right direction. Slowly, carefully, Danny disabled the limiting systems. He established new parameters for growth. He taught the gate how to manage increased traffic without triggering its own safety responses. It was delicate work that required patience and understanding. When he was done, the gate did not just work again. It worked better than it had in centuries. It was more efficient, more stable, capable of handling far more traffic than before. The technique Danny developed was applied to all the other gates across the galaxy. Within a year, the entire network was not only saved but improved. The crisis was over. The council offered Danny everything he could imagine. A position as the head technology advisor for the entire galaxy, wealth beyond measure, a seat on the council itself with power to make laws. Danny turned it all down. He asked only for transport back to New Dakota. As he was leaving, he overheard two council members talking. One asked how a simple mechanic could understand technology that baffled experts. The other answered in a voice full of respect, because he does not try to dominate technology. He tries to understand it and work with it. He sees machines as things that need help, not as tools to be controlled. That is his gift. That is why he succeeds where others fail. The galaxy would never forget Danny Carter's name now. He had saved them all. 10 years had passed since Danny first fixed Ethera in the desert. He was 42 years old now, with gray in his hair and old scars on his hands from years of work. His junkyard had become famous across the galaxy. Young mechanics came from everywhere to learn from him. The settlement had grown into a real city. Thousands of people lived there now. There were schools and hospitals and parks. A technical academy had been built next to Danny's workshop. 50 students studied there, learning his methods for understanding and fixing complex technology. Danny tried to teach them that there was no magic secret. You looked at a problem. You understood what each part was supposed to do. You figured out how to make them work together. It was just logic and experience. But the students looked at him like he was saying something profound and he did not know how to explain it any better. Some of them understood. Those ones would become good mechanics. The others would at least learn to think differently about technology. That was worth something too. Ethera still visited often. She had become like family to Danny. They would sit together in the evenings and talk about everything and nothing. She told him stories about the ancient past. He told her about his day, about the funny problems people brought him, about his students. Danny had learned over the years that Ethera was important among her people. She was an elder, one of the oldest living Draconis. She had power and influence that she never talked about. But she chose to spend her time in a junkyard with a human mechanic, and that meant something to both of them. One evening, as the twin suns set over the desert, Ethera asked him a question. Do you ever wish you had chosen differently? You could have been rich and powerful. You could have lived anywhere. Instead, you stayed here. Danny was working on a small device, his hands moving automatically while he thought. No, he said finally. This is where I belong. These are my people. I like fixing things. Why would I want to be anywhere else? Most beings would choose power and wealth over this simple life. Maybe, Danny said with a smile, but I am happy here. I have good work, good friends, and a dragon who visits me. That is more than most people get. Ethera's mental voice was warm. That is why the galaxy remembers your name, Danny. Not because you saved a dragon or a fleet or ancient gates. Because you never changed who you were. You stayed true to yourself even when the whole galaxy wanted you to be something else. The years continued to pass. Danny trained more students. His techniques spread across the galaxy, changing how people thought about fixing things. The academy on New Dakota became famous. Engineers who graduated from there could work on any technology from any species. They learned to see connections instead of just following manuals. The Draconis, inspired by Ethera's friendship with Danny, started coming out of hiding. They began working with younger species again, sharing their ancient knowledge. The galaxy became richer for having them involved. Old problems got solved with their help. New technologies were developed, and people said it all started with one human who fixed a broken dragon and asked for nothing in return. On Danny's 60th birthday, something unusual happened. He was in his workshop fighting with a stubborn power coupling when one of his students ran in, out of breath and excited. "Master Danny, you have to come outside right now." Danny followed her out and stopped in shock. The sky was full of ships, hundreds of them from every corner of the galaxy. They hung in the air above New Dakota like a cloud of metal and light. People were landing and walking toward the junkyard. Danny recognized some of them. Admiral Hughes was there, older now, but still proud. Kelvor, the engineer who had doubted him at first. Representatives from the Council of Worlds. Captains whose ships he had fixed. Students he had taught years ago who now had their own workshops. And dragons. Dozens of dragons circling overhead, led by Ethera. A hologram appeared in the center of the crowd. It was the council speaker, the crystal being who had asked for his help with the gates all those years ago. "Danny Carter," the speaker said. "The whole galaxy was watching this broadcast, mechanic, teacher, friend to the Draconis. You have served the galaxy in ways that few beings ever do. You saw need and helped without asking for reward. You achieved fame but chose humility. You gained power but chose to serve others." The speaker paused and light rippled through its crystalline body. "In recognition of everything you have done, we grant you the title of Master Technician. This honor has not been given in 10,000 years. It is reserved for those who change the galaxy through their work and their character. You are worthy of it." Danny stood there surrounded by friends and strangers honored by civilizations from across the stars. He felt overwhelmed and embarrassed and proud all at once. He did not know what to say. Ethera's voice touched his mind privately. "The galaxy has remembered your name, old friend." Danny looked up at the dragon, at the friend who had started all of this so many years ago. "I just fixed what was broken," he thought back to her. "Yes," Ethera said, "and in doing so you fixed more than machines. You fixed how people think about helping others. You fixed the relationship between the Draconis and the rest of the galaxy. You fixed problems that nobody else could see. That is your true gift." The celebration went on for hours. People told stories about Danny, about times he had helped them or taught them or inspired them. He listened and felt strange hearing his own life described by others. Was that really him they were talking about? He was just a mechanic who fixed things. But maybe that was the point. Maybe being just a mechanic who fixed things was enough. Maybe it was more than enough. When the celebration finally ended and the ships left and the crowd went home, Danny sat in his workshop with his tools around him. Tomorrow there would be more work, more broken things to fix, more students to teach. Life would go on. The galaxy might remember his name, but he was still Danny Carter. Still a mechanic from New Dakota. Still someone who fixed what needed fixing, and that was exactly who he wanted to be. Many years later, when Danny was old and his hands were too stiff to work anymore, he would sit outside his workshop and watch his students. They ran the academy now. They taught new generations. They spread his ideas across the galaxy. Ethera still visited him. She was ancient beyond measure, but their friendship remained strong. They would talk about old times. About the day they met in the desert. About all the adventures that followed. "Do you regret anything?" Ethera asked him one evening. Danny thought about it for a long time. "No," he said finally. "I lived the life I wanted to live. I helped people. I fixed things. I made friends. What more could anyone ask for?" "You could have ruled the galaxy," Danny laughed. "Why would I want that? I am happy here with my junkyard and my friends. Besides, ruling sounds like hard work." Ethera made a sound like laughter in his mind. "You are a wise being, Danny Carter. Wiser than most who live much longer than you." When Danny died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 87, the entire galaxy mourned. Ships came from every system to attend his funeral. The Draconis came in numbers not seen in thousands of years. The council declared a day of remembrance. But the best memorial was not the ceremonies or the monuments they built. It was the thousands of mechanics across the galaxy who used his methods. The students who taught other students. The problems that got solved because people learned to think the way Danny thought. Centuries later, historians studied the great changes that happened during that era. The cooperation between species. The sharing of knowledge, the peaceful resolution of conflicts. They pointed to many causes, but those who truly understood knew the truth. It started with a poor human mechanic who fixed a broken alien dragon and asked for nothing in return. It started with one act of kindness that rippled out across the stars. It started with someone who refused to change even when the galaxy wanted him to be something else. Sometimes the smallest acts have the biggest effects. Sometimes one person staying true to themselves can change everything. Sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who never wanted to be heroes at all. They are just mechanics who fix what needs fixing. The galaxy remembered Danny Carter's name, not because he sought glory, but because he showed them all a simple truth. Real help given freely with no expectation of reward is the foundation upon which great civilizations are built. And that lesson, learned from a mechanic in a junkyard on the edge of nowhere, changed the galaxy forever.